Good afternoon. Here it is, October 1st, the one-year anniversary of the Mandalay Bay shootings. And thought I'd talk a little bit about that, a little bit about a few other things. In regards to Mandalay shooting, where there was over 50 people murdered and over 500 people injured, we are no closer to solving all the ins and outs on that than we were a year ago. In fact, our sheriff, Joseph Lombardo, has come out and said we'll never get to the bottom of it. Well, you know why they're never going to get to the bottom of it? Because they don't want to. Because they screwed things up so bad intentionally that we'll never get to the bottom of it. The FBI, along with our local sheriff. Our local sheriff is compromised. He's in the hip pocket of the FBI. That's why he had Special Agent Rouse standing over his shoulder perpetually to make sure that Joseph Lombardo did not say anything that would implicate the FBI or whoever else. Now, there's been some really good investigative reporters that worked on this. I want to mention Laura Lunar. She did an excellent job, and in fact, it was too good because during the press conference, our sheriff, Joseph Lombardo, shut her up and told her to leave, and she actually had to leave. So that's that situation. A year later, we're no closer to having this thing solved than we were a year ago. But there's a lot of things we do know. There's a lot of things that we do know, which at this point in time, the Sheriff's Department could care less. One is we know there were shooters on the ground. We know there were multiple shooters, okay? We know the FBI knew all about this a week before it took place. In fact, they were stationed right next door a week before it took place. They took over the surveillance of the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay 1 week before the shootings took place. And yet, we have nothing. There's so many anomalies to that it just makes you understand who all was involved. This was a deep state operation. Excuse me. It had full intentions of disarming American citizens, at the same time getting guilty pleas on the Bundys and the Patriots. So, you know, it was a multifaceted attack. They were trying to kill multiple birds with one stone. And it turned out exactly the way they wanted it to. You know, make no mistake about that. The CIA was involved. CIA controls ISIS. ISIS was there. There's a lot of things that will never come out. Never come out. Muslim Brotherhood was involved in this, either directly or indirectly. So, what a fiasco, you know? And those people that survived, I can only imagine how they feel. Totally disenfranchised from their justice. It's horrible. It's not going to get any better, and it's just kind of out of sight, out of mind nowadays. So I wanted to mention that right up front because it is the anniversary of the Mandalay Bay shooting. Okay. Another thing that I want to talk about. My good friend Carl Koenigs, he put out a very interesting article on Facebook, and I concur with him. And what it amounts to is when you have law enforcement that are just doing their job while depriving your rights under the color of law, that it should be a capital offense. And really, it always has been because it's treason, and yet, you know, nobody's ever wanted to take it that far, look that far down the road. But it's one of those things that really should be nipped in the bud, and that would do it, make it a capital offense. And I think he said within 30 days of conviction, you are executed. That would nip it in the bud. You know, if you look at Nazi Germany and what took place there, had they had something like that, you would have never had the atrocities committed. And you know, that can be applied all over the world with these totalitarian governments, because Without the foot soldiers, the puppet masters have no control. And so you would stop all that, all the deprivation of rights, all the tyranny, instantly, if those foot soldiers understood that they would be executed within 30 days of conviction. It would be over with, you know, and I don't think there would ever have to be a conviction, an execution. Just let them know, you know, just let them know. And you know, what's interesting is I saw recently a police chief, and when this was brought to him that his police officers were committing deprivation of rights, and he said, well, I don't expect my officers to know all the law. What kind of excuse is that? I was stunned when I heard that. You know, they don't want their officers to really know the law. They just want them to follow their commands. Because if they really knew the law, they wouldn't be doing the deprivation of rights like they do. So, yeah, it's really a deplorable situation across this nation. You know, there's been some really interesting things that's been happening in Texas. I think it's Oslo and one other place is committing the same crimes against their constituents, against the public at large. And you know, the media, the alternative media, was trying to expose it. And what this jerk-off police department do? Arrested every single one of them. Well, you know what? They are going to wind up in a world of hurt. In fact, there's indictments against him already, that police chief. And one of them's, I think it's called Leon Valley in the Oslo Police Department. But that just goes to show how far things can get out of hand, how fast they can get out of hand. When you are arresting the very people who are trying to expose your crimes. Wow, think about that. That is how tyranny works. That is exactly how tyranny works. Fortunately, it looks like they got recourse through the courts. But the only reason they have recourse through the courts is because Hillary Clinton's not the president. He would have no recourse if Hillary Clinton was the president. None whatsoever. Guaranteed. So, yeah, it sounds a little extreme, but I concur with Carl Koenigs on that subject. You know, for years I was an entrepreneur, but before I was an entrepreneur, I was a tradesman. I was actually a master tradesman in my trade. You know, you go all the way up to a journeyman. You start off as, I forget what it is. And the master tradesman is as high as you can get. And I did that on my own because I wanted to be good at my trade. I did all the research, all the studying, got all the books, did everything, you know, took all the tests, exams, everything to become a master tradesman. Now, you tell me why somebody who is in law enforcement does not understand the law. How is that even possible? And we see it all the time with law enforcement. All the time. It happens all the time. And many times it escalates to the point that you end up with an innocent person being a victim, being shot and killed. Or any number of things where these police officers just go off the deep end because they don't know the law. They don't know. That's their responsibility. And for a police chief to say, I don't expect my officers to know the law, I just can't even fathom. I can't even fathom that kind of stupidity. It really does. It's really, really irritating. And then you can see why there's so much, you know, like cop block. These people with just a smartphone can go out and expose the deprivation of rights by these police officers. And man, they don't like that. They don't like that because you know why? They're so insecure. You know, they think they're superior. They think their badge and their suits gives them, their magic somehow gives them special powers, and that they can run roughshod over the average citizen. Well, this is really getting old, and something absolutely needs to be done about it. Absolutely. here in Clark County, Nevada, we have Ryan Bundy running for governor. And, he's dedicated to judicial reform. He's been through this system. He's been through this system. And he's been a victim of this system. And so I encourage everybody in the state of Nevada to vote for Ryan Bundy, because you know what? You might be the next one to get caught up in the system and spend years in prison waiting for your day in court, denied your Sixth Amendment right, denied bail, denied the right to a speedy trial. That could be you, or it could be a loved one, all right? So we really need to put the clamps down on the deep state, which filters down all the way down to your county governments. We know that. We know what's happened to us October 1st of 2017. We know how our sheriff has been totally compromised. He's been caught in multiple lies. We have the court transcripts. We can match it up with the videos that took place at the Bundy standoff. And he lied. So this tyranny, it penetrates, it trickles down to right down to your counties. So there's something that's got to be done about that. Now, the thing with Judge Kavanaugh, I can't imagine. I really can't imagine. I've been following this, and these idiots, these idiot libtards, whatever you want to call them. I mean, this is nothing but mind-boggling how they have attacked this man without any evidence whatsoever. What's this country coming to? They think they can do, they think they got carte blanche, that they can do this too. Dianne Feinstein, the rest of them. I don't follow all their names, but this woman, if you even want to call her that, some people, she's credible. Baloney. There's no credibility there at all. If you want to get emotional, say, well, she's whining and crying, she must be credible. Get out of here. Just get out of here yesterday. But this is how the left thinks. Now it's all, emotion. It's all propaganda. Tell a lie, a big enough lie, long enough, and you'll get the people to believe it. Dianne Feinstein needs to be indicted and tried. The attorneys for this gal all of them. They all need to be indicted, investigated, and prosecuted. Every single one of them. And all the friggin' Democrats that have been supporting them, such as Chuck Schumer, and these, I can't imagine how, like this Booker guy, Cory Booker, what a disgrace. What a disgraceful human being. Dianne Feinstein, Nancy Pelosi, these people are a disgrace to humanity, and they need to be thrown out. Then they need to be prosecuted, indicted, prosecuted, found guilty, and thrown in prison the rest of their lives. Anyhow, and what's amazing to me is what's his name? Brett Kavanaugh. I mean, he'd be far from my first choice as a Supreme Court justice, but he's really a moderate. But and they can't even handle that. They can't even handle it. They want a far left communist socialist in there as the Supreme Court justice. That's what they want. And it really doesn't matter who President Trump puts up there. They're going to make an issue out of it because they hate him with everything they got. And I've said along a lot of times, Trump wouldn't have been my first choice for president. All right? I quite honestly, I had a lot of mixed emotions when he was running. And, I'm not going to say the ones that were running that would even been better than him, but because I don't know that they would, but I would have picked somebody else besides him. But the man, you got to give him credit for what he's been doing. The man has been making a difference, a big difference. And that's what we really needed because, I mean, good grief, how worse could things get than Obama? Seriously, how worse that guy was? He was a disgrace to humanity, a disgrace to this country. He did everything he could to divide it and destroy it. And Hillary would have been Obama on steroids. That crazy winch, she would have been Obama on steroids. So my personal feelings is we haven't had a true constitutional representative since, I think, John F. Kennedy. And remember, John F. Kennedy was a Democrat. If John F. Kennedy today was running for president, he'd be called a sovereign citizen, every phobia that you could think of, misogynist, this, that. I mean, he would have been considered so far right today that nobody would have even looked at him. He wouldn't have had a chance to even run for president. That's how upside down things are, okay? And I go way back, at my age, I can actually remember Dwight Eisenhower as president. I can remember Richard Nixon, John F. Kennedy when they ran against each other. I can remember my mom and all the women in the neighborhood sitting down watching TV, and their whole reason they wanted to vote for John F. Kennedy is because he was handsome and Nixon wasn't. Ooh, so we had problems even way back then. That's how bad things have always been, and it's to this day. People get some emotional, they're a one-issue voter. And like, for example, the litmus test by the libtards today is Roe versus Wade. They are one-issue voters. And Roe versus Wade is the worst thing that has ever happened in this country. That is what, anciently, that would have been called Balaam worship, the sacrifice of the innocent blood to Moloch. And nothing's really changed. That is their sacrament. That is the Luciferian sacrament, is the shedding the blood of innocents. And while I'm on the subject, Child Protective Services, what a disgrace that is. It's not near as bad here in the state of Nevada because we have people like Steve Sansom who show up on a regular basis with his group of people. They are court observers. They got one judge already sanctioned. And when you have court observers, and you're willing to put that information out there, you hold their feet to the fire. But if you go to Arizona, there's a class action lawsuit by 2,500 former Child Protective Services victims that went to foster care, that were sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally abused. And you know who tried to put an end to that? Senator Flake. Yeah, Senator Flake has done all he can to suppress that. That shows you what kind of reject that man is. So, Child Protective Services is the #1 supplier of children to sex rings, to sex trafficking. Always remember that. Protect your children from these people at all costs. And I will end on that note. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless America.